Hey guys, what is going on? This is Travis P11. Welcome back to the channel. We are quickly approaching cleaning video number 100, and today we're going to show you how to disassemble and lubricate, clean essentially, the Sig Sauer 1911 Max Michel edition. Now this one is chambered in 9mm. I'm going to guess that the 45 caliber version of this is going to have a similar disassembly, but there may be some slight differences. You know, it comes to 1911 pistols, there's a little bit of variation between them, but this one is awesome. And we're going to go ahead and get started taking it apart. Now, when it comes to cleaning this type of firearm, you really don't need a whole lot to do it. Get yourself a good cleaner. You know, if you can get it, Safariland Break-Free CLP, something I've used for years. Cleaner, lubricant, preservative. It'll not only remove the deposits, but also clean them off and also function as a lubricant when you get done. We've also got Cleanse Oil Field and Range Cleaner, and I usually do a 3-step process with this. I will apply it to the parts that need to be clean. I wipe off the carbon, and then I apply a lubricating coat, and that's essentially it. So typically it's 1 to 2 drops on a patch, and that's all you have to do. Nylon bristle brush is nice to have. You can use an old toothbrush if you want to. Otherwise, I just get these in the cleaning section at my local sporting goods store. Bore light is nice to have. It's not necessary, but you can just check the bore, check the barrel, make sure it's nice and clean, and they come in kind of handy. Now this is essentially a barrel bushing tool, I believe is what we call it. It takes off the end cap off your recoil spring. This came with the Ruger 1911, but we can still use it on the 9mm 1911. This is going to be under pressure when we remove it, so you want to be very careful. This cap right here, and so this tool makes it easy for you to slide it over, get your finger on it, and then just slowly let out the plunger, and we'll show that to you when we get there, right? I do have a fine detail oiler. This has a little needle on it, and so this makes getting into, you know, narrower areas or smaller areas, you know, kind of a piece of cake. So these come in handy. Look into getting you one of these if you can. Now, when it comes to actually cleaning the barrel, I just use a bore snake. You just put a drop of lubricant in front and in back of these copper bristle brushes, these brass bristle brushes. You pull it through the barrel a couple times, and your barrel's going to come out clean. Is it as thorough as using an old school brush and patches? Probably not, but it does a pretty good job. Otherwise, we'll just kind of give you a basic tutorial on how you could use a barrel brush with a cleaning rod, something like you might see here if you buy yourself a basic 45 ACP cleaning kit, which you can get at the sporting goods store for about 15 bucks, and you get everything you need in the box, essentially. Now, to speed up the process, to save some time, I'm just going to use some pre-soaked Cleanse Oil Field and Range saturated wipes. 1 or 2 of these would essentially wipe down the entire gun. To do the same, all you have to do is put a couple drops of oil on a patch and wipe everything down. But again, that's what you're going to do. I'm going to use the wipes just to speed up the video a little bit, and it'll be pretty easy to take care of. Q-tips are fine. The problem is that they break pretty easily and they have a tendency to fray out. I like to use tipped and power swabs. The wood stick gives you a little bit more rigidity, so you can put a little more pressure on the parts to get them clean. But, you know, they're only 4 or 5 bucks for a package, and a package will last you forever. I've been using this one for probably over a year now. And guys, I think that's about it. So let's go ahead and clear this off. We will unload this firearm if it was to be loaded starting off, and we will go from there. All right, so hang tight. Here we go. Okay, so here we have the firearm, and as you can see, it is cocked back, and it does have the safety on, which means it could possibly be loaded. So the first thing we want to do is detach the magazine. You've got a release button right here. And we'll go ahead and press that button. Magazine's going to pop right out. Check it. The magazine is empty. Go ahead and take the safety off the firearm, pull back on the slide, and check the chamber. As you guys can see, it is in fact unloaded. So we're going to verify by putting our finger in there and then also pressing down on the magazine well. There is no ammunition in the firearm. So let's go ahead and continue with our next step. Now, you might want to take your magazine, if it does have ammo in it, put it in a different room, put it off to a different work surface so the ammo doesn't accidentally work itself back into your firearm, you know, right after you get done cleaning it or during the cleaning process. Trust me, guys, anything else can happen. And I did forget to mention it, but I do wear nitrile or rubber gloves to get all the chemicals and keep them off my skin. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on. Okay, so this is probably the trickiest part for any beginner that has a 1911. This might be your first 1911 or a pattern of this type. So you've got a spring-loaded, I just call it a plunger. It's basically a cap that goes over your recoil spring. What you're gonna have to do is press that down, okay? And while you're pressing down on it, you're gonna need to turn clockwise this barrel bushing. And we're gonna need to turn it in order to get the recoil spring out and the cap off, as well as pulling out the bushing and in order to get the barrel out. So the first thing we're gonna do is use our tool or your finger. Now I also recommend some eye protection at this point because this part's gonna be under pressure. With the barrel tool, I'm simply able to press down, turn it ever so slightly off to the side. Gonna use either my index finger or my thumb, and I got gloves on, so this is a little hard to see. And we're going to just move that bushing off clockwise. There we go, press down on it, and then slowly release the pressure. and you're going to see that recoil spring and that little end cap pop out. We're going to set that off to the side. We will clean it in just a little bit, and let's move on. Okay, now in order to get your barrel bushing off, we're going to go back counterclockwise to probably the 4 o'clock position. Go ahead and pull, and that little bushing is going to come right out. Go ahead and set that off to the side. Okay, so at this point, we want to take out this takedown lever. You've got 2 notches right here. It's this little lobe that you see towards the rear. That little notch we want to line up with this tab right here on your takedown lever. So we're going to pull back on it, get that aligned, okay? Then on the back side, we're going to press that button right there, and what that's going to do is allow us to take out the takedown lever. So you press on it, it's going to pop right out, set that off to the side, and we will remove your slide. Okay, now at this point, we should be able to just push the slide straight off. We're able to do so. We're going to set the frame down. We've got your little guide rod. Note the position here. When you put it back together, if we have the slide upside down, this is how it's going to sit. This little lobe right here is going to sit on your barrel. And this is just a little half-size, basically, guide rod that your recoil spring is going to go on. But we'll definitely show you guys how to get it all put back together. And your barrel is going to slide out the front. So this little hole right here, this little piece that we have right here, push that forward, slide, and your barrel is going to come right out. The firearm's officially disassembled. All right, let's get that frame cleaned up. All right, so let's take care of the small components first. Drop oil on a patch or a pre-soaked wipe like myself. Just go ahead and take your little guide rod here and just wipe it off. This is not very dirty, so I'm just going to do this as a one-step process. I'm going to leave just a gentle coat of oil or just a light coat of oil on this to keep it protected and lubricated. Okay, you could scrub this if you have any kind of dirt or carbon on it. It's black powder. You're going to notice it when you take it apart. Okay, we'll set that off to the side. Go ahead and wipe off your takedown lever next. Get that all cleaned off. There we go. Looks good. Hopefully this is in focus for you guys. I never know until after the video's done, but that's your takedown lever. All right, your barrel bushing, we're going to go ahead and just wipe that off. On this one, we might have to poke into some of the holes here just a little bit, so keep that in mind. I'm going to go ahead and take the patch and push it through this barrel bushing right here, so I'll just use whatever I got sitting around here, just a cleaning rod. You can use a pen or pencil if you want to. Just get it in there and wipe it out. You guys would be amazed what gets dirty on these things and where your powder can accumulate. This one's really not that dirty, which is surprising because it was fired before it was cleaned, okay? Also, go ahead and wipe off this little end cap that goes on your recoil spring. I'm forgetting the name of the part right now. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments later on. Now on this one, you do want to get some cleaner in there, but you also want to poke a dry patch in there. We don't want to leave any cleaner in it, but we do want to get it cleaned out. So again, cleaning rod in there, just go ahead and use that to wipe it out. And you might find some grease in there if it's never been cleaned before. It could be really dirty. We're just preventing it from rusting out and corroding. Okay, that looks really good. Okay, now up next, we want to take your recoil spring. Let's go ahead and wipe it out. Looking at the recoil spring, this is how we took it out, so this is how we're going to put it back in. I don't think it's going to matter. It looks like it's the same on both sides. Occasionally, they're wound in a certain way so that they have to go back together in a particular way. Glancing at these two, I don't believe that's going to be the case, so we're just going to wipe it off. We're going to leave it with some oil on it. That's totally fine. All right, now go ahead and grab your barrel and wipe off your barrel, and we're going to put some oil down the barrel. We're going to let that marinate a little bit. I'm going to take a fresh patch. I'm going to cut off a little bit of this and just poke it down the barrel just to get it lubricated. You guys can just push a single patch down the barrel if you want to, a cleaning patch. Yeah, it's nice having these highly polished parts because they clean up really, really easily. They're not hard to do. And then we'll show you guys your lubrication points here in just a little bit. If you have any kind of buildup on here in this area, just go ahead and hit it with the brush and wipe it off. Okay, why don't we just go ahead and take a patch and just push that down the barrel and get it soaked. We're going to let that marinate for a little while. Now, something that comes in kind of handy, I also like to use some of the tools out of my Glock boxes, and this is just a Glock cleaning rod that comes with the pistol when you buy it. All right, 2 drops of oil on your patch. Key is to not over lubricate. Here we go. We're just going to go ahead and just poke that down the barrel all the way to the end. And then bring it back. If you can't bring it back, just take it down to the end and just go ahead and pull it out. Run it through a couple times. You want to get that barrel just a little bit damp with your oil and let it sit for a moment. And then we're just going to run the bore snake down the barrel to get it cleaned off. All right, so now to clean the barrel, if you have a traditional cleaning kit, what you would do is you would put your bristle brush, you'd screw it in on the end, you'd push it down from the back, unscrew it, run it through a couple times, and then run a patch down it a couple times. Hit it with an oiled up patch, and then you're going to be all set to go. I'm just going to go ahead and use a bore snake because this gun's not very dirty. It does not appear to have a whole lot of rounds put down the pipe, so we're going to take our bore snake, a couple drops of oil in front of the bristles, a couple drops of oil in back of the bristles, and we're just going to go ahead and go from the rear to the front of the barrel. So just go ahead and drop that down your barrel as such. Okay, pull it through a couple times. go. It's got some tight tolerances on it. Very, very nice barrel. Okay, we'll pull it through one more time and then we'll check and see if it's nice and shiny. Sorry. One area that does get dirty is the rear of the barrel. You can get some carbon buildup back here. So I'm going to take a drop of oil on my nylon brush, get that lubricated a little bit, and we're just going to scrub it. Just going to scrub it a little bit, hit it up with a patch, and then I think we're going to be good to go. Now you can do this at any point during the cleaning if you want to. It's just a little bit of a buildup on there, and we want to make sure that's not there, just to aid in the extraction and ejection of the rounds. All right, so again, patch with a couple drops of oil on it. I'm going to use a pre-soaked patch. Just go ahead and wipe this off. I'm going to do this as a two-step process. I'm going to wipe this on, and then I'm going to wipe everything out with a dry patch when I get done. And then I'm going to hit it with a lightly lubricated patch one more time, and then the inside of the gun's going to be nice and clean. Pay attention to this area right here where your firing pin comes out. This can get really dirty. We're going to take that same brush that we just used, and we're going to scrub it off. I like to kind of keep it at kind of a downward angle, and that's going to keep the crap and crud from going down the channel that your firing pin rides in. Scrub it out if you need to. Go ahead and grab yourself a dry patch here, and then wipe out the front and just watch the stuff that comes off of it. It's going to be pretty dirty. This whole area is probably going to be the dirtiest area of the slide, and that's just because it's where everything happens. You got your powder burn that happens here, the ejection, the primer being ignited, all that fun stuff. Okay, there we go. Now the inside of this is fairly damp with oil right now. We're going to let that sit for just a minute or two. And now we're going to go to our Q-tips, cotton swabs, whatever you want to use. All right, go ahead and put a drop of oil on your cotton swab or Q-tip. And there's some channels on the left and right hand side. We want to get in there, put a little lubricant in there, but this is actually going to function as a cleaner. So whether you're using REM oil or CLP or some Hoppy's lubricant, right? Just go ahead and scrub that area out, these channels on the sides. Gonna let that sit for a minute. If it's really dirty, you can repeat this process a couple times. We're gonna do the oiled up swab initially. All right, then follow up with the clean swab. Get in there. Also take your swab and hit that area, that little hole right there where your firing pin is. Go ahead and wipe that off. This will just get any of that fine crud that's left over on there from before. It's gonna come off. This is polished, so on this particular pistol, this comes out clean very, very easily. There's barely any kind of marks or residue on it. Check your extractor right there. Okay, it looks pretty good. Now, taking your cleaning rod, there's one little area that's going to be a little tight to get to, so put a couple drops of oil on a patch. Okay, go ahead and put that on a cleaning rod. By the way, this part right here is referred to as a jag, in case you ever hear somebody talk about it. They either allow you to push a patch through, or they have a loop so that you can push your patch through and then pull back if you need to. Now, on this part, we're just going to go from the front, and we're just going to scrub out the front of the barrel. And that's just because I couldn't quite get in there with my pre-soaked cloth. Okay, we're also going to get up in the top right here, this area of the slide. We're going to get in there and scrub it out really good. Now we're going to remove all that stuff that's been soaking up the oil. So just put your patch in there. Not much is really going to come out because we've already wiped it down really good. So hit it with the dry patch. Okay, that looks really nice. We'll wipe off the whole outside of the gun when we get done. And your final lubrication stage here, drop oil on a Q-tip. Hit those channels up one more time now that they've been wiped off clean. Get in there, get the back of this. You can wipe off the back if you want to, that's fine. It's not a big deal. The nice thing about cleanse oil is when it dries, it doesn't leave a super greasy coat on anything, so it works really well. And again, if these come out just black or super dirty, you can go through that whole process again if you want to. All right, take your patch with a couple drops of oil or a pre-soaked patch. We're just gonna go ahead and wipe out the inside. We're going to keep this off of this area where the firing pin is. We don't want to get oil on there. So just go ahead and wipe out the inside of the slide. And this is leaving that final coat of lubricant protecting. I'm just gonna shove this in from the front. Just go ahead and wipe that in the slide a little bit. We're gonna catch it right here from the top. There we go. Well, that looks absolutely perfect. Make sure you have just one little thin strip of lubricant on the top here because there is a little bit of metal contact. And that's the other thing too. If you see any metal finish wearing, if you see any bare metal finish wearing through the finish on the gun, like if it's turning silver, those are going to be some high friction points that you want to make sure you have some sort of lubrication on there for future use. All right, why don't we go ahead and move over to the frame and then we'll get this pistol reassembled. All right, hang tight. All right, so the frame's a little dirty inside, so we're going to take our brush with just a little drop of oil on it, just go ahead and rub and scrub and focus on the rails because that's where the majority of your little powder residue is going to be. Okay, you can just go ahead and scrub it off, get inside there, get in this area that we call the dust jacket of the gun, get on the side where the rails are, and just go ahead and scrub away for a little bit. So this is going to be our removal part. We're going to dry it off, and then we're going to hit it with the lubricant phase, and we'll get this 1911 put back together. Now this area down here is a little hard to get into because it's so narrow, especially on a 9mm version. So we're going to take the Q-tip again. Okay, go ahead and lube that up, single drop of oil. Just get in there and wipe some of that in there, okay? Get in there and just go ahead and add it. And we'll hit it with the dry Q-tip and then hit it with the lubricated Q-tip one more time, and that's it. Get in these holes right here where you have your takedown lever, get those wiped out. Again, we want to do this so that it'll eliminate corrosion down the road. It also keeps the gun nice and clean, which will help ensure that it's going to function properly. All right, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to take a dry patch and just wipe everything off real quick as much as I can. Just go ahead and get this area back here and wipe it all off. Get the front of the hammer back there, get your ejector. There you go. Okay, there we go. Just going to push your patch down in there and get that out of there. It's already been hit with the dry Q-tip, so that's good to go. All right. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that your magazine wells can get really dirty, especially if you're a competitive shooter. You know, you're out in sandy environments or dusty environments, that can be a problem. So go ahead and take your patch, drop of oil. Let's just go from the top down. Just go ahead and scrub out your magazine well. And you might be shocked or terrified at what comes out. All right, let's just go ahead and scrub that out a little bit. Okay, it's not too bad. Hit that with the dry patch in the magazine well area. Okay, it's nice and dry now. There's no oil in there. You always want to keep the oil off your ammunition. Okay, things are looking nice and clean right now. So I'm going to use my pre-saturated patch. I don't like to use these more than one phase because I don't want to put more spent powder or carbon back into the gun. So with you guys, you'll just be using a patch for every single step. So yeah, you are going to go through a lot of supplies, but you're also going to ensure that your gun is nice and clean and ready to go. Okay, so with the pre-soaked patch, I'm just going to wipe out the inside of the gun. Looks pretty good. Okay, the side of the rails. Focus on the side of the rails. If your rails are really dirty, you can run a Q-tip down these if you need to. These are hardly even touched. There's really nothing even on them. So that's all set to go. All right. Now I'm going to take my needle oiler and I'm going to put a single tiny little drop of oil on the rail right here and on the rail right here. Just kind of push it down there a little bit, and that's just going to be in the rails. So when we put the slide back on, it's all set to go. Make sure you have a little bit of lubricant on the top of the rails. Okay, we did forget one last little part. Drop oil on a Q-tip. Run it down the channels in your slide so you have some lubricant in those channels. Okay, you don't have to overdo it, just that one little drop of oil. Okay, all set to go. Now we can begin the process of reassembly. With the barrel, we're going to make sure we have a drop of oil on both sides of this little tiny bolt. There we go. It's just going to run a little bit of lubricant in there. Okay, so that's all taken care of. Just go ahead and wipe off the excess. Make sure that the barrel does have a little bit of lubrication on it as we go back into reassembly. Okay, so reassembly of a 1911 can always be a fun experience, especially if it's the first time that you've ever done it. But we're going to try to walk you through the steps. It's really not that bad. We're basically going the reverse order of what we did before. So take your barrel, make sure this little loop right here is pressed forward. Okay, go ahead and take your barrel and just push it back into the front of the slide. And again, I apologize if any of this gets out of focus. It's going to lock back into place. So it's going to look like this. Sorry. Go ahead and take your recoil spring, press it in from the front. Okay. So it's going to look like this. You're going to take your guide rod and you're going to want to put that on the recoil spring like this, but that little cutout is going to rest on the barrel. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see that very well. So it's going to basically look like this. You want this little loop right here to be facing up. So go ahead and push that. You can only push this in so far because that plunger is going to basically secure everything back together. Okay, now this part I like to just do upside down, especially if you're just kind of a beginner. We're going to slide the frame back onto the barrel. So one thing you could run into, guys, if you're doing it upside down like I was showing you, the slide's going to ram into this part right here. So you want to make sure that you have that pushed down, okay? And then you'll be able to pull the slide completely back, just so you know. What's going to be tricky is you have to take this takedown lever. This is going to have to go through the frame through this hole and poke out the other side. So it's going to be a little bit of a tricky alignment the first couple times you do it. So let's go ahead and slide it all right back together. Also make sure you've got your hammer back at this point too. Make sure you've got your safety down, your safety button down. Kind of grip everything and just kind of push it all back together. Okay, so we've got that all aligned. We're going to press your takedown lever through here. Okay, it's just going to click right into place. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pull the slide back up. All right, now go ahead and take out your recoil spring. And now you've got your guide rod sitting down in there. The recoil spring's going to have to go back onto it. Take your barrel bushing, drop it on at the 4 o'clock position here. And move it back over to the left like where we were when we started. Take your spring. You'll be able to see the shaft of the guide rod down there. Just go ahead and drop your recoil spring back in. It's going to go right onto it. Then what we want to do is go ahead and take this little end cap that's going to go on your recoil spring. Remember, this is going to be under pressure, so you're going to press it down with your finger gently. And you can use your barrel bushing tool if you want to. I'm just going to slide it across, and of course my gloves got caught in there. And this is where we are right now. You can press down with your thumbnail. Okay, go ahead and move that bushing back across. It's going to lock back into place. There we go. We're going to go ahead and do a quick function check here, so pull back on the slide. Okay, looks nice. Okay, let's go ahead and lock it open. Make sure the lock works on it. Slide stop. There we go. Go ahead and take that off. We're going to go ahead and check the chamber. It is empty. Verify. It is empty. And squeezing the grip safety on the rear, go ahead and dry fire. There we go. Right? And that part is all done. Okay, let's just go ahead and wipe it off on the outside, and then we're going to be all set to go. And that is it, guys. That is how you basically field strip, lubricate, and reassemble your 1911. Again, reassembly is going to be a little bit tricky because you're going to have to kind of finagle with the slide a little bit, and you're going to have to make sure nothing's getting caught on the rear like I showed you before. But as you practice through it a couple times, it will get easier. Chime in down below if you have any tips or tricks or ideas for me when it comes to cleaning this off. Again, we got some lube on there. We're just going to go ahead and dry it off. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Make sure you guys check out my little podcast that I do called Caliber Corner, which for the summer of 2023 will be happening on Mondays at 4 p.m. Central Time. And then usually in the fall, we go back to Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Central Time. So that's all time Central. We talk guns and ammo and all kinds of other fun stuff. So this is Travis P11. Make sure you guys mash that bell so you don't miss any notifications. Guys, I want you to have fun. I want you to be safe. And as you know, we will talk to you soon. All right, take care and have a great one. Bye-bye.